Hello and welcome to the Random Wrestling Review. It is, as usual, our local to global series where we are in to the end of April now, 2000, and we move on to our next show. The reason I hadn't moved on beyond this point immediately following our last show last time is that I needed to name the next show, and it had to have May in the title somewhere. It also should be noted that this will be a free show. I decided to make this a free show. I decided a while ago we'd scatter a few of them across the calendar, and this one is the latest. And the name of the show is going to be Jingle All the May. That is going to be our show. A little bit random, a little bit silly, but because it's a free show as well, I felt like it's a Christmas present. It's a present, not a Christmas present. It's a present. So Jingle All the May it just felt like it sort of made some sort of sense. Maybe I'm alone on that, but that's what we're going with anyway for this special show in May. And of course, the Lottery Brawl is coming up in week 4 of May as well. So you never know. There's an outside chance we do another couple of shows here on this episode, but we'll find out pretty quickly. We're going to go to the end of the current month anyway, and that gives me just a few moments to say thank you for watching. And if you do enjoy this video, hit that like button and show your appreciation. It's really great to get that kind of feedback from the people watching. I've had some really good feedback from people watching this series, and the fact that it's still going after such a long time is really gratifying. And I'm hoping that people are still kind of following along with it. I should also mention that I'm recording this a heck of a long way in advance, so you know you should feel reasonably confident that as I've said before in previous episodes, that this series has still got a long way to go yet, and I really feel that. I really feel like there's a possibility that this goes, as much as, who knows, 5, 10 years in game time forward into the future. So we hope that. Oh, David Hogg hands in his noticed. It's time he moved on. This is our referee that we've had since the very beginning. Good old David Hogg. Does his match history come up? No, it doesn't show you. But I mean, he must have refereed. Well, he has refereed every single match in company history, and he's decided at the beginning of May 2000 that it's time that he moved on from the company and will be only with us for another 28 days. So we will need to find a replacement for him, and that is a shame. I feel actually feel quite upset by that. That he's going. Um, okay, well we'll look at that. I don't think we need to worry about it for the next 2 shows. Actually, I think he will be with us. Let's just absolutely make sure of that. But yeah, he's going to be with us long enough to cover the next 2 events. But just whether or not we want to appoint anyone before that point, I don't suppose we do really. Just have a look at what happened at Spring Stampede. Again, Chicky Star is in the main event of a WCW pay-per-view. He's defeated by Arn Anderson as Arn Anderson defends that World Heavyweight title. Uh, there's really not a lot else to talk about on this show. I mean, yeah, WCW in real trouble as an organization by this point in the game. I mean, I say that they're still doing okay popularity wise, but I mean, they just don't have anybody that can do anything that can kind of rival what WWE have now got in their company. So yeah. So let's move on to our next show, which is, I will just double check. I get real OCD about this stuff. Monday, week 2, and let's also just check that we are everyone's available. They are. So let's move on to the next show. Well, that's a new piece of admin that I didn't expect to have to do anytime soon. Is that we have to find a new referee. David Hogg is moving on. I don't know why a referee at this level of promotion would choose to move on, to be honest. And that is another thing about, I don't like to complain too much about the game because I love TEW, but there are bits and pieces of it that I'm just a bit that just irk me a little bit. I just like to see different, and this is another one where I feel like it's built into the game that if someone's been at a company for a certain amount of time, that there's some kind of randomized thing that happens now and again that kind of, if the randomizer comes out at the right level, it effectively says that they'll leave the company. And I don't think there was any need for David Hogg to leave the company, especially if he's going to continue to be a referee. I mean, a bit different if he decided to leave the business. I could get that. But if he's not, then what's the big problem? Anyway, he's not going to be our referee for very much longer. We'll just have a look at what happened at WrestlePalooza here. Shane Douglas defeated New Jack in the main event, an 80 rated main event. Balls Mahoney defeated Mustafa in a dog collar match to retain the ECW World Television title. So the ECW World title itself was not on the line in this one. Show rating of 72. I mean, they seem to be in a better shape than WCW to me. Certainly for the size of promotion that they are anyway. So we're going to go to Jingle All the May, our latest show with May in the title. This is a free show, as I said, so we're not going to put anything major, but there is going to be lots of build to what's going to happen on the next show. So obviously, when you left us last time, and let me go back to that before I put in this first thing. When you left us last time, Dan Severn and Dave Bautista went to a double DQ when Sean Stasiak and Mark Henry attacked. Case in point, actually, it wasn't a great show. It was one of our weakest shows in a while. But yeah, they went to a double DQ, meaning that Severn retained the title, but this is where we are in terms of the rankings. And at the moment, it's unclear what's going to happen to Batista because the rankings system says that if you lose a title match, you lose all your points. But again, of course, Batista didn't lose. And a similar thing happened last year, around about this time. And once again, it involves Dave Bautista. It also kind of involves A Still because he has 10 points and is waiting his chance to get a title shot. So there's going to be a few bits and pieces that we're going to need to do here. The first one is that the opening of the show is going to be Bruce Hart addressing all of this. He is going to talk about Dan Severn. He's going to talk about Dave Bautista. And he's going to talk about Ace Steel. And he's going to announce that at Lottery Brawl, which is the next event, there will be a triple threat match for the RWR North West. Can't do it for the for the title. Let's just put it like that. Now we'll get into the explanation. Yeah, we'll get into the explanation during when I run the show. So I'm just going to leave it at that for the moment. Then the opening contest is going to be Rex King against Eric Young. And this won't be especially long. Rex King's going to get the win. We'll work. No, we don't need to work the crowd. We've got Bruce Hart doing his thing beforehand, don't we? So Rex King's going to win by pinfall. We'll give him a tainted win because that's kind of Rex King's speed. So he's going to beat Eric Young. The next angle we're going to have is Ace Steel. And he is going to come out and he's going to vows to challenge the decision of Bruce Hart and says the triple threat match won't happen. So he's gonna do his bit to challenge that decision. Again, we will go through in the detail what he says during the show. So for now, I'm just writing that Ace Steel vows to challenge the decision of Bruce Hart and says that the triple threat match won't happen. And then we're going to have Chris Harris versus Billy Kidman in a not Chris Adams, Chris Harris. Making all kinds of mistakes here. Chris Harris against Billy Kidman. And again, this doesn't have to be long. In fact, we're going to give Chris Harris a good decisive victory over Kidman. And after that, there is another angle. And this time it's going to be Dan Severn talking about Sean Stasiak. And Mark Henry, I think we'll also have him talking about. Severn says he'll face anyone but wants to get his hands on Stasiak and Mark Henry. Don't think this will be a particularly long angle here. So we're kind of really building up this sort of three-way potential match and situation that we've got. Keith Hart will face James Storm in a singles match. These two obviously kind of in a feud, linked to Bruce Hart. In fact, James Storm is with Bruce Hart, isn't he? Um, so what I actually want to do, I'm going to add. Well, let's just do this match first, and I'll go back to the Ace Steel thing. So Keith Hart is not going to win this match. James Storm is. We'll make this the storytelling match because we need one. So why not make it this one? And we'll make it an open match. But a win for James Storm. Then one more angle. So we really are pushing a lot of angles in this one. It's going to be Dave Batista's perspective on everything. And he's going to talk about Ace Steel. He's going to talk about Mark Henry. And he's going to talk about Shawn Stasiak. And Dave Batista says he's only focusing on tonight's main event, not anything else right now. So that will be his kind of perspective on it as well. So all these different angles. I mean, this is because we're doing a free show. I figured we'd just almost make it like a free bit of advertising, or not a free bit of advertising, a bit of advertising to advertise our next big event, which just felt like a good way of doing things. We've only got 3 matches so far, right? So I was going to change Ace Steel. I'm just going to have Barry Buchanan on screen with him, just to keep that story going as it is. In fact, we don't need to do that. I've done it now. Who cares? I'm going to put this one up one place in the show because the third match, or the fourth match, the fourth singles match we've got is Teddy Hart versus Chris Adams, and this one is going to go just 7 minutes, but we're going to have Teddy Hart beat. We're going to have him. Yeah, we're going to have him beat Chris Adams with a flash pinfall victory. I might even make it an open match. Chris Adams is going to be very upset with this, but I think we might be done with him. We've got 20 guys on the roster now, which is way more than we had intended. And we've got the triple threat match in the next show, which means it's 17 guys. So if we get rid of one, that'll be 16, and we only need 15 for the Lottery Brawl itself. So we don't need Chris Adams after this. So this is going to be Chris Adams' last match. So we Teddy Hart versus Chris Adams in Chris Adams' last match for the company. I just don't feel like he's warranted staying on the roster, frankly, because he's just not been that great, to be honest. Yeah, that's how I feel. 5 versus 5 is the main event, though, and it's going to see Dan Severn, Dave Batista, Buddy Wayne, Charlie Haas, and C.W. Anderson against Mark Henry, Ace Steel, Shawn Stasiak, ECMO, and Chemo. So that's the big 10-man tag match that will be the main event. We're going to make it 15 minutes. We're going to make it a slow build. Who's going to win? That is a great question. I haven't even considered who's going to get the win. Goodness me, that is difficult. I hadn't made a choice. I just hadn't made a choice. I think we're going to have. How about we go with? All right, Buddy Wayne's going to win, and he's going to pin ECMO. That's going to be the main event of the show. Let's just take a look at our booking analysis. Chris Adams is extremely unhappy. CM Punk's not booked. I think we're happy for Punk not to be booked on this one. So we save a tiny bit of money with him not taking part. So this is the show. There's a lot of angles here, a lot of all sort of building up to that big potential triple threat match, and of course the lottery rule will be to come later in May. So let's do this show and see what happens here. So in front of 188 people, so the biggest attendance in company history. That's obviously because there's no price for the tickets, but still great to see the biggest crowd in our company's history. And it starts off with Bruce Hart coming out to address the crowd. He says, "Thanks everybody for coming. It's great to see so many people come out to support their local wrestling promotion." He then talks about what happened at the end of our last event, where Dan Severn and Dave Batista went to a double disqualification due to interference by Mark Henry and Sean Stasiak. And Bruce Hart says that in order to address this situation in order to make it as fair as possible for the waiting number one contender Ace Steel, he is booking a triple threat match for the Lottery Brawl. He says that this is consistent with their previous decisions on matters such as this. He says that they have had a ruling in place for some time, since the last time this happened, in fact, that should a contender for the title, a number one contender for the title, defeat the champion in that match, that but not win the title because it was by count out or DQ, that there would be an immediate rematch. But this wasn't a case of Batista beating Dan Severn. He said they drew, and therefore there was legitimate reason to also include Ace Steel in the title match next time around. So a segment rating here of 27. Bruce Hart also says that for that match, Sean Stasiak and Mark Henry will be banned from ringside. So they will not be able to be anywhere near the ring, and if any they do come near the ring, will be suspended. Then we have the first match of the night, Rex King versus Eric Young, a match that went 8 minutes 20 seconds and was won by King by pinfall after using a foreign object, 37 rated a match here. Rex King in-ring performance of 40, Eric Young a 21, but Rex King has proven to be pretty good so far, and that's a good victory over Eric Young here. So then next we have the irate Ace Steel. He comes out with Barry Buchanan, and Ace Steel is apoplectic with rage about what's happening. He said that this has happened for the last 2 times he's become the number one contender. There's been some controversy in the previous title match and has affected his chances of getting the title. This will be the 3rd year in a row that he's been put in a triple threat match when it comes to his title shot, and it's simply not fair. He said he's made this clear again and again and again, and it keeps on happening. And he says that he vows to take this to court. He says he's going to challenge Bruce Hart at the highest court possible to prevent this match from happening, and instead him being given the title shot. He says that in addition to that, he's not going to allow it to happen, and he says that one of the ways he's going to make sure it doesn't happen is by ensuring his team in the 10-man tag match main event win tonight, so that he has more victories than Batista and therefore has the best possible chance of making the case for him to be the sole number one contender at this point. So he's still angry and kind of tells everyone that the triple threat match at the Lottery Brawl show will not happen. Then we have the next match, Chris Harris versus Billy Kidman, and Harris gets the second victory of his RWR career with a segment rating of 34. He wins in 6:44 by pinfall. This is not a great match. Chris Harris just a 31, Billy Kidman a 32, but fine for what it was. So after this, we have Dan Severn doing his promo, which was not the best, and I wasn't expecting it to be the best, to be honest. Apparently, Severn was poor when trying to improvise dialogue, but he is our champion, so it felt like we needed him to talk too. He says that he doesn't care what Ace Steel says, he doesn't care what Bruce Hart says, he doesn't really care what Dave Batista says. He says he will face anyone for the title that he holds. He's been a fighting champion since he won it back in September, was it, of last year, or October? And he is going to continue to defend the title against all comers. But he says that he does want to get his hands specifically on the 2 men that attacked him and Batista at the last show, Sean Stasiak and Mark Henry, and he'll get that opportunity in tonight's main event. So segment rating of 30, not amazing, not bad, but it did mean that the story between Stasiak and Severn has lost heat. Then we had Teddy Hart versus Chris Adams, and Teddy Hart wins in 6:55 by pinfall with a surprise roll-up. Chris Adams was actually exhausted by the end and was angry about having to do the job in the first place, but it got a segment rating of 33, so that's not bad. This is a big victory for Teddy Hart. He's really starting to pick up one or two wins, and perhaps showing the potential that he has as one of the legendary Hart family. So Teddy Hart takes the victory here. So oh, Chris Adams needs to be booked in. Yeah, that's fine. So Dave Batista, a poor angle here from Dave Batista. I was expecting more from him. He also does a segment rating of 30, and his story with Mark Henry has advanced but lost heat for this one. Batista struggled when going off script, so maybe I just need to script some of these promos. Whatever the case, Dave Batista says that he has heard what everybody else has said tonight, and he says he's only focusing on the main event, not anything else right now. He needs to affect some revenge upon Sean Stasiak and Mark Henry for the attack that they made upon him last month. And once he gets through that, then he'll start focusing on whatever title match he is going to compete in. So then we have the final singles match before the main event, and this was a great match between James Storm and Keith Hart. They have great chemistry. We've seen that before, and James Storm wins this in 9:51 by pinfall. Keith Hart was again at 25, so he's actually, I'm not saying he's like absolutely exploding in terms of overall quality, but he's been he's been a couple of notches above what he was for most of the time he's been with us. James Storm, meanwhile, though, a 42, a segment rating of 40, and you've got to say that's nearly all down to James Storm. And so we come to the main event, the 10-man tag match. It is a 40 rated match, which is really decent. It sees Dan Severn, Dave Batista, Buddy Wayne, and Red Alert defeat Mark Henry, Ace Steel, Sean Stasiak, and the Samoan Violence Connection in 14:46 when Buddy Wayne pins ECMO. In terms of the in-ring performances, the best of the night came from Charlie Haas, a 45 from him. Meanwhile, Chemo did a 41. We've got in there CW Anderson at 32, Buddy Wayne at 42. So that's really good for Buddy Wayne, one of his best ever. Batista at 35, not so great from him. Dan Severn at 33, ECMO 24, Ace Steel at 36, Sean Stasiak 40, good from him, and Mark Henry at 29, one of his best performances so far. And both the two storylines there you can see advance with this segment. In fact, three storylines advance with this segment, with the Rebellion Implode storyline gaining some heat out of it as well. So that's the end of the show. An overall rating of 38 for this free show. Never going to be a particularly massively important show because of the fact that everyone got in for free, but did a job and certainly did everything it could to um, play up to what was coming next month. I think I'm going to give not next month, later in the month. I think I'm going to give Ace Steel a compliment on his performance because I thought it was pretty good. We saw Sean Stasiak at a better level than he's been at recently, which is good to see. Who else did I say had the best performance? Buddy Wayne. Buddy Wayne, easily the best performance of his time with the company, and so they are the people I am complimenting. So I'm looking at the time on the recording at the moment. It doesn't look like we're going to get to our second show, and we've risen to tiny size. So this is another reason to maybe take our time a little bit here. We have risen to tiny size at last. It's taken us goodness knows how long to do this. Just as David Hogg decides he wants to leave, we've gone up to tiny size. Is there a news story for that? Yes. RWR rising fast. It's now a very dangerous time for us. For the next few months, we must walk the fine line between confidence and overconfidence as we look to capitalize on our current success without overreaching and damaging our own long-term prospects. What does that mean for us? Is there anything? So we now need 16 active wrestlers. We're fine. We've got 19, so we've not got any problems with that. We're going to be releasing Chris Adams. So that's another thing. Let's just take a look at the top 100. Where did that come? So the Jingle All the Way show was 13th best show we've done this year. Did I call it Jingle All the Way? Jingle All the May is actually the name of that show. In terms of matches, in terms of match quality and matches, so the best two matches were the 240 ranked matches, right? James Storm versus Keith Hart there, 27th best match of all time. And where's the other one? Oh, there's a lot of 40 rated matches here. There it is, 35th best match also of all time, the main event. And in terms of attendances, confirmation that that was our very best, 188, beating the 164 we got for Party of the Millennium. So those top three shows are all free events that we've put on. That's why they're at the top there. But we have risen to tiny size, and those free events I think have helped us get there. And there it is, 17 popularity in the Northwest, 5 in the Southwest, a handful of bits and pieces elsewhere. Also, some popularity in Mexico. In Canada, Alberta has 5, British Columbia has 5, Saskatchewan 2, and Mexico just a tiny bit here. We're just starting to see our popularity rise in Mexico. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I need to do because we've moved up in size. I don't think there is. Let's just check the finances. I mean, last month we actually lost $895, which was less than in March, which is a good sign. We will lose more in May because of the free show we just put on, but I feel like that was a successful. There's a downward trend in terms of how much we're losing here, which hopefully will continue now that we are up to tiny size. And I don't suppose that's changed our position either in terms of the company wars, is it? Well, no, we're still 21st, but we are now tiny. We're no longer insignificant, which is magnificent. Really pleased to have finally gotten to that position. Okay, so I don't think there's anything I need to do in terms of hiring anybody, but I'm going to keep Chris Adams on the roster. Am I going to keep him on the roster? Do I need to? I'm going to keep him on the roster just in case there's some reason why I need an additional wrestler for the Lottery Brawl, but I don't think I'm going to need him. Um, let's move to the next player controlled show. And I mean, this is quite a big moment for this series, right? Like, we've been working towards becoming a tiny promotion for the whole time we've been doing this. We're finally there. I'm going to see, I think it must be like 66 ish shows that we've run in order to get to this point. Now, look, if I'd have been clever, if I'd have known how to play the game better than I do, and I say that as somebody who basically just plays the game for the fun of coming up with stories and booking matches between different wrestlers. But if I had been better, then I would have known a long time ago to just do loads of free shows right from the start. And we probably would have gotten to this point, you know, like, I don't know, 25 shows ago, possibly even more. But nevertheless, we have got there now. And that's a big one for us. I'm also going to check actually in terms of announcing deals, like announce deals, broadcast deals, just to see, whether or not we can, um, like just to see whether or not we can get a broadcasting deal. Oh, connection error. That's all right. That'll just be. Oh no, the game stopped. Oh, this is a disaster. Well, it won't have stopped entirely, but give me a second. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so apparently it couldn't cope with me going up to tiny size. It was like, no, I'm shorting out at that point. I'm not gonna worry about it. I tell you what, rather than us go onwards with this advancement, let's just see if we can get anybody who was willing to negotiate now that we've gone to tiny. No, there is not. So that's not happening for the moment. We remain unable to get ourselves a broadcasting deal, but I'm not too worried about that. The only thing I was going to do was have them broadcast our events anyway. So it's not like it wasn't going to change anything really in terms of what I bring you. It might just have allowed us to reach some additional people outside of the Northwest who maybe watch it on TV. We're going to keep moving on though and progressing to our next show. A little bit nervous when as this loads through, just to see that it can manage to get through this day, and there's not some kind of major glitch or a problem with the game. Doesn't look like it because we're on to Saturday now, so that's good news. Bit of a strange way for us to end the episode. Apologies for that. But yeah, what we're going to do next in terms of the Random Wrestling Review, of course, is bring you that big Lottery Brawl show, and it's going to have two major things on it. Let's just see what this news item is before we go any further. Barry Buchanan changes styles. Okay, that's not a big deal. Any major shows? There weren't really any major shows either to talk of in terms of where we are now. So yeah, the big Lottery Brawl show, which has got two big draws basically for it, which is going to be obviously the Lottery Brawl itself, the 15-man Royal Rumble-esque match in which the winner gets 5 points in the ranking system, but also the triple threat match, which will see Ace Steel, Dave Batista, and Dan Severn go at it for the RWR Northwest title. Of course, Ace still absolutely raging about the fact that this is the third year in a row that it has happened to him. The only thing I'm raging about is that we've booked it for the Lottery Brawl, in which means that we don't get to do three-way and Robin, which is going to would effectively be the next natural show that we would be doing for this. Those who've been watching for the majority of this series will know exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm sure will be just as frustrated as I am. Anyway, that is everything we've got time for in today's episode. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.